Equip your mind and heart to defend the truth of God through Christian apologetics. This is Reason for Truth. Now your host, Steve Garofalo.
Welcome to the Reason for Truth podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Garofalo, picking up last week with the central question is, what does the Bible say about hermaphrodites? Hermaphrodites are basically people that were born with one sex but have some genital organs from the opposite sex. Now, I will say up front that an hermaphrodite is still primarily one sex or the other. What does the Bible say? So when babies are developing in the womb, the bottom line is they all begin with sex organs that look female. And if the baby is male, he begins to produce testosterone, and if the hormone reaches the tissues correctly, the external genitals become a scrotum and a penis. That's what happens. Chromosomal or sex hormone abnormalities can, produce an infant that is kind of intersexual state, but it can also be caused by a condition called congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which is a disease that blocks the baby's metabolism, and it's not an uncommon as we might think. About 1 in every 2,000 newborns is born with some kind of intersexual state. But babies are not born with physical disorders to punish their parents in any way. Although God created the earth perfectly, it soon brought destruction upon itself on the onset of human sin, as we see in Romans 5:12, which says, "Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned." That's the sad part, but it's where we're at, and Jesus came to wash away that sin. That's the beautiful part for you and for I. Right after the flood grew progressively shorter, indicating a change in the environment that resulted in damage really to the human genetic structure. And this might explain as well why, incest was necessary from the population of the earth in Genesis, but was forbidden later in the law of Leviticus 18:6-18. And thousands of years later, as sin continues to permeate in the world, the human race is just bombarded with every kind of sickness, right? We see more and more disease and disorder and birth defects. And so from very early on, the child should be taught how valuable, loved, and accepted he or she is by his family and also by God. And he or she is not a victim of divine judgment, but God has a plan for each one of us that will bring, and each one of them that will bring him glory, as we learn from a man who was healed, right, by Jesus Christ. And he said, "Teacher," his disciple asked him, "why was the man born blind? Was it as a result of his own sins or those of his parents?" "It was not because of his sins or his parents' sins," Jesus answered. "He was born blind so the power of God could be seen in him." John 9:2-3. Listen, if you're out there and you have sexual orientation issues, or you happen to have hermaphrodite issues, just remember, God's got a plan for you, man, just as he does for me. All you have to do is trust in him. It's free gift of salvation in Jesus Christ. Check out our blog as well at reasonfortruth.org or reasonfortruth.bible. Just hit the blog button. Make sure you like this podcast. This is your Reason for Truth for today. I'm your host, Stephen Garofalo.
Want more Reason for Truth? Make an online gift at reasonfortruth.org. Always be ready to give an effective answer for the good news living inside you. This is Reason for Truth.